You can read every relationship book ever written, have the vocabulary, the credentials, all of the tools, and still be stuck in struggling. In fact, you can have all of that and still be the reason your relationship is suffering, my friends. I know this because that was me. I was a marriage and family therapist. I had studied this stuff for years. I had my PhD in couple and family therapy. I had tools my partners had never even heard of. And when Cal and I were in the beginning of our part two of our relationship, that's a whole other story. There was this moment where I would sit, I guess, moments in my own therapy office, right? Watching couples do the work, secretly jealous because at least they had each other in the room. At least they could get the other person to come there and do the work. And Cal wouldn't. And I thought he was the problem, right? The worst part about my story, for me anyway, is that I was educated enough, expert enough to make a really convincing case for what the problem was, not realizing my own part, right? And that was the pretty version, not the hard won version, right? That I had in my own head. But that's what I want to talk to you about today. Today, we kick off a new month, a new series about the truths that you can't find in books. You're not going to get in school. You only get these the hard fucking way. And this is my story. This is the hard won truths that changed everything for me and my relationship and really became the catalyst for starting the PowerfuLove business and all of the work that I do. So welcome, my friends, to another Catalyst conversation for a relationship revolution. Here, we challenge the unquestioned assumptions about love, life, and leadership, disrupting the patterns that keep you stuck and revealing the truths that no one has ever taught you. Here, we activate new ways of leading relationships consciously, courageously, differently, and dare I say, better, so that you can have the relationships and the life that most people only dream of. This month, we're going somewhere real, somewhere most people don't actually talk about. We're getting into the hard-won truths, the lessons that, like I said, aren't going to come from books or courses or even therapy. These are the ones that come from being brought to your knees by your own freaking life and choosing to look at what you find there instead of looking away. Each episode this month is going to tell someone's story of what they learned. I'm going to share today one of the truths that transformed everything for me in my relationship, in my work, in how I move through the world. And then I'm going to bring in guests to share these stories for themselves. These are not theories, my friends. These are the lived in, burned into us realities that shape all of how we love, live, and lead. As I mentioned, we're going to kick off this series with the story that started it all for me. Here's what I see constantly in the women that I work with and what I lived myself. You are smart. You are capable. You have probably already read the books, gone to therapy, tried the communication strategies, done the personal growth work, and you can articulate exactly what's wrong with your relationship. You can name your partner's patterns, his defenses, his blind spots, and yet things aren't changing. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I get it. Your relationship is stuck. You feel unseen and you're alone inside this partnership. And some part of you wonders, is this how it is? Is it ever going to change? Love. What I want to offer you today is the possibility to answer that question and to invite you to consider that the answer to that question may live somewhere you haven't looked yet. within you. Not because you're wrong, not because you're broken, but because the truth is that there is a move available to you that most people never make. And it does really change everything. Before we get into this conversation, I want to take a moment to introduce myself for those of you who are new to me or this work. My name is Dr. Jeni Wahlig. I'm an award-winning relationship mentor, speaker, author, intuitive guide, and I am a relationship revolutionary. My mission? To revolutionize how we think about relationships, how we think about and go about relationships, let me correct that, and to redefine what it means to love so that we may all experience the true power and possibilities that relationships have to offer, because nothing, truly nothing, impacts the quality of our lives more than the quality of our relationships. And we are in relationships all the time, in every corner of our life. Relationships are the infrastructure of everything we're trying to build. But most of us have never learned how to do them well, let alone how to lead them consciously, relationally. And much of what we have learned not only doesn't work, it also keeps us stuck and unhappy. So this revolution that I'm talking about is a great global healing through love, a return from separation into wholeness. This is about a paradigm shift in the way humanity relates, loves, and leads. I am here to change how we do this, starting with our most intimate relationships, our intimate partner relationships. And in these catalyst conversations, my friends, my goal is not just to give you insights. It is to wake something up in you so that you may be part of the revolution as well. Now, if you want to help us activate and accelerate this global movement, please make sure that you comment, like, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share about our work, attend our events, and of course, do your part to continue leading with love. And if you're looking for support for yourself or your relationship, please reach out. I will talk about one of the most powerful ways that I can support you at the end of this episode, the Relationship Revolution community. But there are many ways that I can support you, that Calvin and I can support you. Either way, I'm so glad that you're here. You ready? Let's get into it. So I want to start with this. Waiting for your partner to change. Seeing them as the problem and hoping that they are going to do something different. While it makes sense, it's not a strategy that works. Okay? I get it. You know, your partner's doing something or not doing something, and it's causing an effect that doesn't feel good. And our brains go, well, you caused this effect. So if you would change, if the cause were to change, the effect would not happen. If you could just, then I wouldn't, then we wouldn't, then things would be different, right? Totally logical. And honestly, it's the way that our brains are kind of predisposed to think about our life experiences. And the truth is that trying to get your partner to change by telling them that they're the problem, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that they aren't part of the problem, maybe even the biggest majority part of the problem, but pointing your finger at them and telling them that they're the problem and that they need to change, it never works. I mean, how does it feel for you when when your partner says that you're the problem and you need to change? I mean, maybe you're more conscious and mature enough to be able to receive that and do some shifting. And yet it's a lot harder. And in most cases, especially when you're finding you're stuck, it's not working. And so your power has never been in what they do, my love. We can't control that. We don't have power over that. The power that you have always had is in you, in how you choose to respond, right? That's the thing that no one ever taught me. That is the piece that I had to learn the hard way. Let me tell you a story about this. So at one point in my relationship with Cal, I literally offered to hand him, or to not hand him, I would create for him a manual. Okay. I wanted to create a detailed instruction manual on how to get it right with me. And I thought that this was such a gift of love, right? Like, I will tell you how to succeed. I will set you up for success. I'll tell you exactly how you need to respond, and the things that you can say and how you can interact or react with me in order to get it right. Okay. And it's, in some ways, there's value to partnering with your significant other and helping them learn exactly what you need. But the message that came across that to Calvin in this situation was like, listen, babe, you're the problem. Here's the solution. Just follow it and things will get better. Right? How do you think he took that? How do you think that he received this information? Did he want to receive a manual? Did he want to follow a set of instructions? No. Because it's like, I was not aware of his part of the experience, which is exactly what happens so often in this dance. When you're pointing the finger at your partner saying, this is what you're doing that's not working and the effect it's having, and you need to change it so that this effect doesn't happen. They're having a very similar experience. They're thinking, well, I wouldn't if you didn't. You get that? You ever think that? If your partner's telling you what you did wrong, that you want to defend yourself and be like, well, if you could just, then I wouldn't have to. Yeah, it's circular, my friends. So you're pointing the finger at them, they're pointing the finger back at you. Now you're in a power struggle. And that's exactly what was happening here. As I was telling Cal, like, here's the solution. Aren't I such a great partner that I'm going to just give it to you? He was thinking, yeah, but what about all the ways that you're not showing up? What about all the things that you're doing, Jeni, that are upsetting me and not working for me? And yet he didn't feel like he had the space to even say that, to share that, because I was, as we women so often are, kind of bringing it up first and insisting on my experience being heard and seen and understood. And it was a repetition of that dynamic again and again and again, that honestly was keeping us stuck in a doom loop. Again, don't get me wrong, Cal was doing the same to a degree, and I was leading this. Like, and truly, especially in cisgender heterosexual relationships, women tend to be the ones who lead the conversations about the problems and the conversations about what needs to change and the conversations about our feelings. And our men or our masculine, energized partners may be less likely to do that. And so there's a power dynamic. And the more that I tried to push, is as much as I understood exactly what the pattern was and how it could change, the more that I tried to push to get him to understand the way I understood, the worse things got. Okay. So this experience for me was crushing while I was in it, because I was really good at understanding the problem. I was really good at seeing what wasn't working. And I was really good at articulating how we could make things better. And nothing was actually working. So the change happened when Cal got to a breaking point and essentially had to give me an ultimatum, where he had to say to me, listen, I'm giving everything I got. And to be fair, he was going through a dark night of the soul kind of thing at the time. And so like working on our relationship when he was just trying to survive in many ways wasn't a priority. And so he's like, you need to take it or leave it. And I had to decide, like, am I going to take the breadcrumbs that I feel like I'm living off of, or am I going to leave? And in my stubborn determination, thankfully, in my commitment and knowing, like, I do not want to lose this relationship again, which is a whole nother story. I decided, all right, breadcrumbs it is. And what I was forced to do, and this was the gift of this hard-won lesson, my friends. What I was forced to do in that moment was figure out how to change the relationship with just me, because I couldn't. All of the things that I was taught I should be able to do to help change a relationship, like communicate, he couldn't do it, didn't have the capacity. Bring up my feelings. He wasn't interested in hearing them. He was just trying to survive. Ask for my needs to get met. He didn't have space for my needs. He needed to focus on his. Like, work together. This would enter in the jealousy of my couples in therapy. No, he wasn't available to participate with me. So all of those strategies were out the door. So what was I supposed to do? Stay in suffering was not an option for me, because truly the relationship was unbearable. We were fighting all the time. I was often depressed. He would like go silent and distant for days at a time. And I felt like I was tortured. It was affecting my other relationships. It was affecting my freaking business. There were days that I couldn't work, that I had to cancel sessions because I was so distraught about what was going on between me and Calvin. I lost clients. I lost money. I lost, I was a shitty leader of my team. It was affecting everything, truly. And so just like putting up with it wasn't an option. I still needed things to change. But in all of my education, I was not taught how to change a relationship when the other person isn't willing or able to participate. That felt like a dead end, right? That felt like something like, you deserve more than that. And I did. You should get out of that. But I didn't fucking want to. I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to leave this. In our story, I had just gotten him back. There was almost a 7-year stretch between when we first found each other and dated for a year and when we got back together in the chapter we call 2.0, which is when we were in this unbearable phase. So giving up wasn't an option. And like I said, I am stubborn. I am determined. I'm smart. I'm a creative problem solver. I'm a bit of a scientist. So I started really looking at what it was that I could do to shift the dynamic. And here's a piece that was a really important awakening in this lesson. And it's become integrated into all of the work that I do now. And it's this. It is attention to power and privilege. Because the truth is, in all of my therapy training, I had been indoctrinated into these ideals of how relationships should be, how communication should be, how partnerships should be. But that comes from a cis, white, heterosexual, monogamy, very privileged lens. And I was in relationship, right, with a Black, first generation, Nigerian American, neurodiverse, trans man who did not have a great upbringing. He says he was raised by wolves, and I think there's some truth to that, right? Like I had a really privileged childhood and safe and secure parents who didn't abuse me, or mess with my mind, or any of the things that a lot of other people in the world go through that affects their ability to do relationships and communication in these ideal ways. Plus, I had all this education on how to do relationships. I'd been in a lot of relationships where I was actively attending to like figuring them out, because it's been my passion. It's been my divine assignment, like basically since I came out of the birth canal, I feel like. So, Cal would say to me, like, I feel like I'm, in Africa, starving to death, and you're coming up to me complaining about your internet connection, asking me to care when I'm starving and my children are starving. Like, how can you ask me to care about that when my basic needs aren't being met? It was really hard for me to receive. I'm like, no, I'm not. My needs matter too, and you're not starving. Okay, privilege. I had to get that. I had to get that through my mind. And it wasn't just that he was going through all this dark night of the soul stuff, but in a way, thank goodness he was, because I don't think I would have gotten it if it hadn't been so extreme, stubborn, and bullheaded sometimes. Okay. I think we high achieving, intelligent women can be that. I can own it. Can you own it? I mean, drop a like I own it in the comments if you resonate with that. So here was like this like downloaded truth that I finally like came upon, right? It was this metaphor, and I just had a client actually reflect back to me how my creativity has shown up and helped in our work together, including the creativity of metaphors. And I was like, oh yeah, I do that a lot. So this was one of those moments that really helped me. And so I had this realization that while I felt like I was investing in our relationships at a high level of like $1,000 today, a day, right? $1,000 a day I was giving into our relationship and giving and giving and giving. And what Cal was giving was like maybe $1 if I was lucky. And that felt really unbalanced. Like, I'm giving so much more and you are doing so much less. And that is unfair. And it was. But here's the thing. In this metaphor, I have millions in the bank. Okay. Maybe not millions. Maybe I had hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands. Okay. His dollar was all he fucking had. Or maybe he had $2 and the dollar that he gave me was like half of it. I mean, he literally was giving me all that he could. And I was giving him something that was easy for me to give, something that didn't feel like a big sacrifice or a big cost or a big loss, because I had all of this privilege. I had support. I didn't have children at the time. I wasn't going through a huge loss. I was employed and had money coming in. There were so many contrasts between the resources that I had and what Cal was living with. So my $1,000 a day meant shit compared to his dollar. When you put it into proportions, he was giving way more than I was. Listen, that was a fucking wake-up call. That was a holy shit. Like, why am I sitting here complaining about the internet when he's starving? Why am I feeling so sorry for myself when I have all of these resources and he has so very little? Now, I know that this is an extreme example, but I think that I had to go through that kind of extremes in order to recognize the depth of the indoctrination into all of these shoulds about what he should be able to do, how he should be able to react, how he should be able to think, what he should be able to pay attention to, how a relationship should be, communication should be, how sex should be, how time together should be, how equity and equality should show up and what it should look like. And I recognize that this is shit that we all have. But I needed to own my part. I needed to own my shit. and I needed to start giving. So I started looking at, like, what could I do that could fill his cup a little bit? What could I do that might give him more resources? What could I do to help him feel safer about being around me, to feel less drained when he was around me, so that he could actually want to be around me? And you know what happened? When I started doing that, when I stopped pointing my finger at him and started looking at myself and my own part of the dance, and I started asking myself, how could I be part of the solution instead of asking him to be the solution? And then I started doing that. I started shifting who I be, how I showed up, how I loved, the story I was telling, the meaning I was giving about how he was showing up and what he was doing. Things started to change, and change fast, my friends, because he loved me. When he started having more capacity, when his bank account, so to speak, started to grow, he gave me more. Because he wasn't not giving it to me because he didn't want to. It was because his guard was up. He was defensive. He felt unfairly accused and criticized, not enough, because he didn't have a lot of resources, because he didn't know how, because he was drained, because he didn't feel safe. And all of those reasons, they show up in your relationship too, maybe in different ways, but I promise you they are. What I have found now, again and again and again, as I have worked with dozens of clients using this perspective, is that when we shift this, when we make this paradigm shift and start doing our own work, changing our part of the dance, our partner starts feeling safer. They start feeling partnered. They start feeling inspired. They start being more willing and open to do their own work, to change their perspective, to change their behaviors. And you've moved from this me versus you to us versus the problem, to I care about you, let me partner with you so that you have the ability to like work with me and we can address what's not working between us. When you can move into a place of greater safety and connection and partnership as you approach problems, now you become an unstoppable team. That safety piece, that like we're a team piece, it is essential for creating change. But we don't do that. We don't get there by focusing on our partner as the problem. We get there by focusing on ourself as the catalyst for the solution. And a part of this, right, is recognizing that sometimes being the solution means requesting or even requiring that your partner learn this dance with you. Okay? It's not about doing all the work yourself. I certainly didn't. In fact, in the beginning, it was about me doing the majority of the work. And then it hit a point where he had more capacity. It was like, no, now you got to do some work too. And then he stepped in, right? There were new catalyst points where now the way that I could lead this relationship was by calling him in and insisting that the dynamic shifts some more. This is no longer working. And then again, just recently, in our last series, I talked quite a bit about my perimenopause journey and how that was another catalyst for change and required a new level of leadership from myself and from Cal. But I initiated that because I knew that it wasn't working for me. And I did that, not perfectly by any means, but I did that through partnership with him, by joining with him on a shared island, as opposed to being on separate islands where we're just like battling one another. And so you come over here, now you come over here. It's like, no, like I will come to you because I had more of that awareness. And ladies, if you, as you're listening to this, if you're feeling like, why should I have to? You shouldn't. It's not fair that we women do more of the relational labor, more of the emotional labor. It's not fair that we lead and be the one first, when that's basically what we've been always doing, and we need our spouses to step in and step up and be the one next. I hear you, and I agree wholeheartedly. And if they're not there, if they don't get it yet, if they're not willing or they're not able, then what other choice do you have? Because you do have choices. The choices are you stay in suffering and keep like trying to get your partner to change and like slowly bleed your energy and capacity and connection until you're so resentful and so disconnected and so lonely in your relationship that you decide it's just no longer worth it, which I see a lot of the times. Or you get to the end of your rope, which is where people finally come to coaching or therapy. Don't recommend doing it that way. Or you just accept that this is how it's going to be and figure out how to stay in it and be happy, radical acceptance, that's a path, or you leave. I recommend this third path of learning how to lead the relationship, learning how to be the one yourself, because you're already leading it, just not effectively. Okay. I was definitely leading the relationship as I named, and definitely not effectively. Like I said, I was part of the problem. So I had to figure out how to change that. And when you do, it turns out you end up spending less energy and less time and use less capacity to create the changes. You have more influence. You get more of the response that you want from your partner, and they start showing up and doing more of the work and sharing the load with you a lot more. So you're no longer spinning your wheels. You're actually getting movement in your relationship, change, improvement, which is what we want, isn't it? Yeah. So for me, the answer of like, okay, yeah, it's not fair, and I would rather not just be existing on breadcrumbs. Like I want my whole fucking loaf of bread because that's what I can give, but I know I can't get it yet. And he's worth it enough. And that's a big part. Like, is your partner worth it enough? You get to decide that. But for me, was worth it enough to figure out how to feed myself in other ways while he could only give me breadcrumbs until he was able to give me more, until he knew how, until he had the capacity, until he had the willingness. And that's what I help women do, is learn how to do that, so that their partner can step in, so that they can invite their partner into that change more quickly and effectively without the stumbling blocks and long, hard road that I had to go on. So this is, this work, this skill of becoming the one. It's what we call empowered accountability. And it is the number one skill that truly changed everything. It is what our business is built upon. And I'm not going to go deep into empowered accountability now. But I will just say like that it is more than just a framework, or sorry, it's more than just like the decision to lead and to be the one. It's also a framework, right? We teach steps for how to do this, how this looks, because it may be easy to say and talk about. I'm hoping you're getting it cognitively, but the practice of it, that gets nuanced, that gets challenging when you're feeling really activated or lonely or unloved, or like things are unfair, or you're starving in your relationship. It's a lot easier said than done, but it is so worth learning how to do. And I am so passionate and committed to teaching people how to do this practice. The shortcut, by the way, that helped me and Cal get better at practicing empowered accountability, and I want to give this to you, is to ask the question, what's my shit to own? What's my shit to own here? What's my part of the problem? What's my, what are my, what perspectives or lens am I holding that is participating in my experience of this? What story am I telling? What next step could I take that would be more likely to get me what I want from this situation? How have my behaviors in the past influenced what's happening now? Like it's a simple little question, and not in a self-flagellating way. Okay. It's like genuinely, authentically, sovereignly asked, like, what's my shit here? And it's not going to be all one person's fault. It's never 100% zero. It might even just be 99% one. But again, our power is in how we respond. We always have choice in how we respond. Maybe there are not a lot of good choices, but there's still choice. I think about, oh gosh, what's his name? Viktor. He wrote Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl. Okay. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. But Viktor Frankl was in a Nazi concentration camp, and he survived essentially by recognizing that no matter what freedoms, no matter what atrocities he was put through, the one thing that the Nazis couldn't take from him was the story that he told, the meaning that he gave to what was happening. Like, if there's ever a situation where there's like a 99% one, that's probably it. And his 1% of like shit to own, so to speak, was, how am I making sense of what I'm going through? And it's how he survived. So I share that piece of the story because it is so powerful. It is such a powerful example of how our own internal world can change everything. So I hope that if you take anything away from this conversation, it is this: you have the power to influence both the internal experience and the what happens next in your relationship. You already are, my love. And when you can start to influence it consciously by slowing down and taking a look at where, like, what choices you have, when you can unhook yourself from the belief that you're powerless until they change, you open up the door for faster, more loving, easier transformation. The hardest truth I learned, and truly, my friends, this was like my relationship with Calvin in this stage was the hardest, most painful relationship experience I had ever gone through. It truly felt like I was being fucking tortured a lot of the time. Okay. But the hard one truth I got to was that we cannot change our partners, but we can always change ourself and our part in the dance. And when I finally stopped trying to get him to change and started taking radical ownership of my own experience, my own triggers, my own patterns, my own expectations, my own stories, my own behaviors, then and only then did the relationship start to really shift. Not because he magically transformed, but because I stopped standing in the way of connection with my own unexamined stuff. It only takes one person to change the dance of a relationship, right? It may take two to tango, but it takes one person to learn the steps and lead the dance. And that person is you. It's also your partner. If they're watching that too, I'm speaking to you also, each of us. But again, it's not going to do us good to be like, well, you're responsible. Well, okay, but yeah, and so am I. here. Let's focus here because that's where our power is. And when you integrate this, when you practice this, when you get to stop waiting for things to change. You get to stop banging your head up against the wall, stop spinning your wheels. You stop measuring effort against your unspoken manual, and you become the person in the room and in the relationship, in all of your spaces that leads, because you have decided that what you want is worth going for, that the relationship that you're in is worth doing your part more consciously. You stop outsourcing your power and you take it back. And that's what empowered accountability builds. Not just better relationships, a better version of you that exists in every relationship of your life. My friends, if this is landing for you, and if you are feeling like you know that this is where you want to go and who you want to be, then I want to invite you to join me in the Relationship Revolution community. Okay? This is the space where we take these ideas and we apply them, we integrate them, we embody them, because learning from our heads is not transformation. Transformation happens when embodiment happens, when it becomes a part of who we be, a part of how we practice, how we show up in the world. And that's the work of the Relationship Revolution community. Okay, it's $147 a month. You can cancel at any time. It is full of support and activation and additional trainings and resources, behind the scenes looks, opportunities to ask questions and get my feedback, and to have support from other people who are committed to a lifelong journey of growth and revolutionizing their relationship as well. If you're looking for something deeper, I am about to launch a brand new offer called The Third Path. And I'm so excited about this because it is created from the experiences of real women in relationship. It is an opportunity to deep dive and accelerate transformation in a really liberated and sovereign and powerful and empowering way. The third path is about choosing you and choosing this leadership. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that so that you are not fixing, you're not overfunctioning, you're not carrying all of this load by yourself. But you have the skills, the tools, and the identity shifts to be able to lead the change that you have been longing for and that you absolutely deserve. So, if that's something that you are interested in, please drop a comment or send me a DM or email me at connect@drjeniwahlig.com or connect@powerfullove.com. Any of those places you can get a hold of me, and just let me know that you are interested in the third path, and you will be on my VIP list to get the information as soon as the course is ready to launch. I would love if you were to find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Jeni Wahlig. Tell me what you're sitting with. What landed for you? What are you going to do differently this week after hearing this conversation? And please do join me next week for another Catalyst conversation in this relationship revolution, where I am going to meet with an incredible woman who knows a whole lot about pain and has learned from the pain of life, physical, relational, emotional, and can teach us how to transform that pain in a way that no doctor, no book is going to do. This is her hard-won lesson, and I can't wait to share it with you. That episode is going to drop next Friday, 12:30, as does every episode of these Catalyst conversations. Until then, keep leading with love, my friend.